Welcome, beloved souls, to this special coming home to you, Sparkcast, where joy is medicine, healing is sacred, and remembrance is your superpower. So, on this episode marks the beginning of something beautiful. It's our first monthly panel where we gather in sacred circle to explore one powerful theme each month through real stories, embody wisdom, and hard-led truth. And this month, of course, we begin with what's often felt but rarely spoken about: mental health awareness. Mental health doesn't live in heaviness, and don't worry, this conversation's not going to live there either. Or it doesn't have to live there, is what I should say. And so we're here today. We're choosing to talk about mental health in a way that feels nurturing, real, and soul affirming, because healing doesn't have to hurt. It could feel like peace, look like play, and sound like laughter. Together, we'll explore how to anchor into peace during life's chaos, choose joy without guilt, and create practical rituals for emotional healing. And remember that coming home to yourself is the bravest thing you can do. This space was created for the woman who's been holding it all together: the mama, the truth teller, the healer, the cycle breaker, the one quietly carrying the weight while questioning if she's enough. And I want you to know you're not broken. You are becoming. But before we get going, and I realized that I skipped ahead here on my, I really wanted to start by honoring what today is. Today we celebrate Memorial Day. And I wanted to take a sacred pause for that, to honor the deeper meaning of this day. So today we celebrate Memorial Day, and it's a time to remember and give thanks to those brave souls who gave their lives in service so that others may live with greater freedom, safety, and peace. To every family out there who's lost a loved one in the line of duty, we honor your grief, your courage, your sacrifice. Today we hope that you feel wrapped in comfort, love, and the prayers of the grateful collective gathered here with us in this moment. And to that woman who's listening today, especially those carrying unseen battles, emotional weight, or generational pain, this is for you too. Let this episode be a tribute, not just to those who have fallen, but also to the women learning to rise. May we remember that healing is a sacred form of service, that joy is a revolution, and that when one of us chooses to come home to herself, we all rise. So without that being said, I humbly ask for just a moment of silence to honor the brave souls, our heroes of our past, of our present, and for the future generations to come. Thank you. So before we begin again the sacred conversation, I'd like to invite us into a moment of presence and pause, a ritual where we can return each time when we gather in circle. This one is our one breath, one heart practice. It's a way to root, to remember, and to connect together as one. So wherever you are, just get comfortable. Let your shoulders drop, soften. If you feel comfortable, close your eyes. Place one hand over the other on your heart center. And if you rather feel comfortable, put one in your heart and one in your womb, in your belly. Bring to mind something you've been holding, a lingering worry, a weight maybe, or a tightness, something that you're ready to release. Bring it to mind. We don't have to fix it. We're just going to honor it. Bring your awareness to your root center, the base of your spine. It's the place where you ground. Take a slow, deep breath in through your nose for 4 counts, drawing that breath upwards through your body from your root chakra, all the way up to your crown, that space above your head. Hold it here at the top for 2, 3, 4. Now purse your lips and blow the breath out like you're blowing out a candle for a count of 6. Let it carry that heaviness. Let it soften your heart. Let it all go. Now picture a golden swirling light in front of you. Gentle, radiating, calm. Now breathe it in slowly through your heart center. That light, feel it settle into your chest. Hold it for 4. Let yourself feel safe and grounded, loved and held. Now bring to mind one thing you're grateful for. See it. Feel it. Smile. Smile into it. Let that gratitude expand in your heart as you breathe out slowly for 8 counts. Now take one final deep breath in, and then with this inhale, stack another moment of gratitude on top of that first one. Let it amplify, let it grow, let it glow, let it expand in your heart. Smile with your face, smile with your whole being. Whisper to your body, thank you, I love you. And as you exhale fully, visualize sending that same golden light out to every sister in a circle here today, and to those across the globe who really need it in this moment. Visualize that golden swirling light reaching their heart. Now together, we will speak this ancient prayer of remembrance, the Ho'oponopono. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Now breathe in gently one last time, coming back to your body, back to this moment, back to this sacred space we've created here. Set an intention now for how you want to show up, how you want to receive and be held today. And now with one breath and one heart, we can begin. Just want to look at all of my beautiful ladies here. All right. Well, I did the whole welcome. And now I just wanted to let this breath be where we start trusting that our peace matters, that our sovereignty is a superpower. It's a birthright. Let it be where healing starts to feel safe, even sacred. Before we dive into today's soul conversation, I want to honor and introduce the incredible women joining me here today in the sacred panel. They are mothers, healers, coaches, and leaders in their own light, each one in a living embodiment of light, truth, and transformation. I'm honored to welcome Jen Reimund. She is a 90 hypno work coach and emotional mastery guide who helps women reclaim their clarity. Actually, she's a brain ninja, and she helps women reclaim their clarity and confidence through subconscious healing and breath and mindset as well. Welcome, Jen. Raise your hands so people know where you are. Yay. We also have Claudia Molnar here with us. She's a grief doula and nervous system mentor, guiding women through deep healing with compassion, embodiment, and soul-led resilience. So great to have you here today. Hello, hello. Mari, and I know I'm going to not say your last name right, Nygander? Close enough? Okay. She's a mindset coach and cycle-breaking mama who helps women rise in truth, rewrite their inner stories, and lead from the heart. Beautiful. Welcome. So great to have you here. Then we have the beautiful Angelica Faith. She is a healer and transformational coach who activates women into their personal power through intuitive guidance, shadow alchemy, and fierce self-love. Awesome. So great. Such powerful women. And last but not least, we have Gwen Geerinck. Geerinck. Did I say that? Okay. She's a leadership coach, an empowerment facilitator, supporting soul-led women to lead with authenticity, grace, and unapologetic light. I feel I am so surrounded by amazing, powerful leaders in the world who are my soul sisters. So these women don't just speak on healing, they truly live it. And they're here to remind you today that no matter what you're walking through, you are worthy of softness. You're worthy of support, of self-love. So if you're ready to release survival mode, tune in back into your inner knowing and to reclaim your light. You're in the right place. Let's rise together. And right here is where I would probably put a little music. Do 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 do. I don't know. It's coming in the future, folks. We're moving up. All right. Wait, I have somebody I didn't hear coming in. We have a guest today. Yay. Okay, so moving and getting started with the first question. We are here in a sacred spark of awakening. Mari, and I want to highlight you here. Let me spotlight you. There we go. You've transmuted your pain into power and walked the path from survival to soul. Can you take us back to that sacred spark moment when you realized, I get to choose joy over pain. I get to come home to myself. What awakened within you?
Wow. When I started to reflect upon that, life is a journey and everything is like constantly evolving. But I have been mentally ill and bulimic for my almost entire life. And when I got this question to reflect upon, I just realized that I am all about breaking the generational patterns. I just don't want to pass this forward to my next generation. And when I came back and I realized that my moment where I actually took the decision to do something about this was at the same age I was when it all started. My daughter was 5, and I was 5 when I had my first trauma memory. So I just felt like that was like the moment that I understood that this cannot continue anymore. this can no longer be. The excuses for keeping myself stuck in this behavior get to stop. So I just, well, that's what you do. You don't really know what's going on. You kind of lost in translation. You don't know what the solution is. You don't know anything else than your current programming, right? Like, what are you repeating and what are you doing? I just felt this inner urge that there's got to be something else. This little heart. I was thinking more of my daughter than my son, but I'm sure he has been influenced also by my behaviors. But I was thinking so hard that I did not want her to experience what I've had experienced my entire life. I did not want her to feel less than. I did not want her to put herself on the sideline and not be able to experience life. I just felt like I had missed out on so many things just because I didn't believe in myself. I didn't think I was worthy. And that made that decision so much easier. You're muted, but I saw you said wow. And I don't know if that was what was expected, but that was actually like that pivoting moment when I realized, and it was like so telling, because I've been wondering what is my mission, what is my vision, and this thing keeps coming back that I don't want to pass it forward, and now I know why. So thank you for bringing that to my awareness.
Yes. And then at this moment, anybody who feels inspired from what she's sharing to popcorn and in, this is your invitation to do so. But I'll just interject and say, like, I think I just had this conversation last week with one of my guests, is children can oftentimes be that mirror of that enough. I can't. It needs to end with me. And I think I am noticing a trend of cycle breakers. At least the people that I find that I am drawn to and that are becoming part of my tribe are all cycle breakers. And that's a beautiful thing. And it doesn't matter what it is. It's sometimes just a whisper that comes slowly in the night after praying and asking, and we just get to be open and curious to lean in that moment, when it's ready, when we feel safe. Anybody else want to share the question here? Okay, I have too many windows open.
Yeah, in terms of being a leader or an example or role model for your children, I experienced challenges with my youngest son as well. And the moment he shifted in getting better was the moment that I was checking in with myself and leaning into what energy do I bring to the table and how is he responding to that and create that specific behavior that was actually not working for him, not working for the family. So in that moment, for me, it was very important to see how I was part of that creation instead of blaming him or being, of course, I was out of balance, but I couldn't keep him accountable for it. For me, it was like, it's so important to see how I generated that in my energy, in my ways of being, in what caused and create his behavior, and trying to understand where he was coming from. And when I did that, and his dad did the same thing, and we start to open up about it and have this conversation with my son, things transformed. And it's so important to understand as parents that we actually instead of blaming or shaming our child for the behavior, that we get to be responsible for how we are participating in that moment.
Yes, and I think something very important as a starting point, just getting the awareness of what we are up to, because it's so easy to be on autopilot. I have never been a mom before. I just do what my mom did. I just do, I repeat, no questions asked. And now that I know better, or more, now that I am aware, I should say, because it's no competition, it's just that I feel a lot more confident in being a parent. And just like you said, Gwen, when I see that I have an influence, when I see how my energy sparks, it's so much easier to make a better decision in that moment.
Mm.
Yeah, I
And
think
they're
okay.
going to be great, because now that I know, I wasn't aware at the time when this journey started. I wasn't aware about like that I had that influence, or that I, with my leadership could transform their lives. But as I'm learning more and more and how I'm showing up, I can see the shift in them, and I can also see the the relationship shifting, and the kindness, and the not shaming, not blaming. And I can see what I'm creating is that break in generational pattern.
Yeah.
I am allowing them to feel. I am allowing them to eat. I am allowing them to enjoy ice cream if they want it. And there's no shame, blame. And they get to express their feelings. If they're mad, they're mad. If they're disappointed, they're disappointed.
Yeah. Yeah, you said something very beautiful when you saw that you were acting like your mom. Like, what I see with all of us is that when we are conscious about that we are in a relationship with another individual, but each individual has two people in the back. So actually we have 6 energies running the show. And if you are not aware of it, that your mom and your dad is like quack, 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 quack in there, and their parents are quack, 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 and their parents are quack, 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 and they all influence you in your generation transmission. If you're not aware of that, that means that actually you're running cycles and patterns that are not yours.
Mm.
So I think it's a very beautiful share about that. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I think it's also, I love the fact they bring up this gestational trauma as well, because I have a very, very strong through the mother line. I had a very roller coaster relationship with my mother, and she with her mother, but her circumstances were very different because obviously it was wartime, etc., and she was a Holocaust survivor, etc. And I equally had a difficult relationship with my daughter at times. Well, not difficult; they were very beautiful moments, but energy sort of clashes and things. But I was never really very aware of this, and I only became aware of generational links and energy links. I don't want to say much later than I should have or would have liked to have, because I think as well it's never late than ever, or better late than never. But we're all very, very strong characters. My grandmother was very strong. My mom's very strong. My daughter as well. And actually it was COVID time when I just decided, okay, it's time for forgiveness. And my grandmother, who I adored, was her mantra was, I'm very unforgiving, and it serves me very well, and I think I grew up with this because I always grew up thinking that I too was very unforgiving. I used to say my worst character trait is that I'm very unforgiving, but I'm aware of it, so it's okay. And and actually it took me a long time to realize, okay, I need to start this ball of forgiveness. I need to start get this ball rolling for forgiveness. And it was the first quantum leap for me, actually. And then I realized that, what you said, Gwen, with these, energy alignments, that the minute I did that, our relationship healed. And then she started speaking much more favorably about her relationship with her mother, and things became clear and it snowballs. And I think it's a very, very beautiful place to start. And I think that there are not enough people who are aware of the generational links between our behavior patterns and also our mental health patterns as well. So thank you, Mary, for bringing that up.
It's so important. It's just not eye color and hair color and body shape, right? It's all the mess that we get to deal with as well.
Yeah. I think, and also being, women, mothers, working mothers, and that generation that we are. It's very hard to see which generation, but I think with women it's hard to put us into decades, to be honest. But I can speak for my generation. We were the ones like, can we have it all? We can have it all, we can do it all. And then you go through this, oh no, I really can't, we can't have it all because it's so exhausting, and it's so, and then coming back to, actually, yeah, we can have it all. We just have to figure out how we can have it all and do it all. And I think that's a very empowering thing, but that comes with age and experience, and this, seeking the joy and realizing that, we can't do it alone. We can do it all, but we can't always do it alone. And that for me was a big awakening point anyway. This, can't walk it alone. And if you do, it's just going to be uphill in the mud in 6-inch stilettos. Not pretty. So, beautiful share. Thank you.
Anybody else had an answer to that question? What was that moment of remembrance for you? What lit your inner spark? Anybody that we haven't heard from yet?
Yeah, and it came down to my kids too. I was in this cycle of doing, and so as Claudia is talking about, like mothers, we're very much expected to take care of everything. We're working, we're doing the household, taking care of kids, doing, making sure the husband's okay, right? So I was very much in a cycle, in a loop of doing and doing, and with COVID coming, where nothing felt safe anymore, even in my doingness, right? It caused me to really look at what I was taking away, like what I was taking away from my kids. Like when I was home, I wasn't present. Like I wasn't really seeing them. I wasn't really connecting to them. So when you come to that realization, and again, it all comes down to awareness, but for me, my realization is I was doing exactly what my mom was doing to me. Like our household was not very loving. There was not a lot of affection. Like I didn't know from day to day what I was walking into. And so those imprinted on me. And even though I knew consciously that's not the kind of mother I wanted to be, right? Like that's not what I wanted to turn into, I still fell into that cycle. And so when you start to bring awareness to it, then you start to really look at, how do I break the cycle? Like what is important to me? What is my vision? What is my why? Like who is my priority? Is it working my butt off and like coming home with no energy, or is it actually being with these beautiful beings that I created?
I love it. I love that I'm here with so many cycle breakers. It's definitely been coming up in a lot of my conversations recently. So no surprise I generated all of you here. And I will say I actually am not a mom. So my beginning story is definitely a little bit different. And this is such a great question because I get to continue, right? The journey of healing is never done. And having to do it alone or by myself is a story that I continually get to look at as like, I get to be supported and I get to receive. And that first moment, that spark, was when I was at a crossroads of whether I was going to choose to end my life or if I was going to choose to be here. And with struggling with mental health and self-harming and, suicidal ideation, there was not a way that I could see getting through it by myself. So that is when I got to surrender and saying, hey, nothing that you're doing in this head is working. You get to be supported if you are choosing to live this life. And clearly, my soul contract I signed was to be a cycle breaker, to, be a stand for, the generational and the women in the world, and so many things that I continue to get downloads on now is that I got to be supported. I got to surrender to the vulnerability of being judged, not having it all together, and, maybe losing some people in my life because I was mentally unwell. Like, some people, and it's okay, don't know how to handle being in a space with somebody who wants to end their life. They don't know how to handle that. That's, and that's not necessarily something that you're asking, but in that time, it's like, I wanted to be seen, to be heard, and to know that I was valued. And I will say that that is one thing, to anybody listening in this space who is either in this situation or know somebody that is, you don't have to have the answers for them. You just have to hold space. That's all you have to do. And that can be super simple as just listening to them. And you don't have to provide the solution. So thank you.
I love that invitation because I think it's so important. A lot of the times it does feel like you want to be there, but you don't know how to be there. And it feels alien, like, for lack of better words, almost dirty, right? Like that feeling of, if I touch it, am I going to ruin it more? Or am I going to be silly saying this or that? So I think it's really, really important. And I thank you for sharing that. Just being there, even just sharing the same space with them is enough. So thank you for that reminder. And I think there's a lot of us at some point or another in our lives felt just too heavy, too burnt out to want to thrive. And that's why it's important that we do know and we recognize that we aren't alone. And the more that we all share our truths, the more vulnerability that we express in the world, the more I think it opens up the permission for others who are struggling, feeling alone in the dark, so that they see that there is a hand of a sister and a brother who is walking the same path. It's a slightly different script, but it's the same path. And it's time that we stop making it be such a dirty word and really have it be a compassionate understanding that it is just a way of life, and we get to choose to have it be just normalized. Not normalized in that sense, but just understood on a deeper level, so people feel seen and heard and not judged. So, Jen, thank you everybody for sharing your beautiful truths and your vulnerability in that. So, Jen, my friend, I have this question here for our next. We are here at Coming Home to You. I believe that joy is medicine, and it's medicine in motion. So you alchemize breath into healing so beautifully, and then science into the soul, which is so great because it's important to do both. What are some of the playful and creative, or maybe even unexpected ways that you tend to your joy in those everyday moments, maybe even in the moments when life gets chaotic or noisy?
Yeah, thank you for this question. I love it. And I have two answers for this. So, for a long time, I thought healing had to look like sitting in stillness or journaling until my hand fell off or, doing all the work. And really, the deeper that I went through, like I was doing breath work, energy work, subconscious reprogramming, the more I realized that joy is medicine. Laughter is medicine. Play is medicine. And when you are so stuck in the doing, like doing all the things, right? Like we forget that we get to have fun. We get to have joy in this. And joy, you know, it's twofold. Like it doesn't have to be another thing on the checklist that you have to make time for, right? Like joy could be simple things like putting on music and dancing, even with the kids, right? Like uh, being silly, or like creating accents, or singing terrible made up songs, or just giggling at memes that are definitely not spiritually correct. And breathing, like not just to calm down, but to come alive, to feel my power again. This could be creative. It could be painting, just whatever the things were like when you were a kid that you forgot that you actually really enjoyed doing. Like I used to play hide and seek and draw and like play dress up, like all of those things. Like it doesn't have to also, though, I say this is twofold because it doesn't have to be another thing on your to-do list. Like you don't have to create time to feel joy. And it's definitely not something that has to be earned. Like rest does not have to be earned. And that's something that I had to also come to the realization of. Like it's, pausing doesn't mean that you're falling behind. It doesn't mean that you're not doing something on your to-do list. Like self-care, it was actually something, something I scheduled after I checked all the things off the list. But eventually, my body and my soul, it called me to something deeper, because joy isn't, it doesn't only live in the doing. And sometimes it waits for us in the being. So this could be like in the slow mornings, just sipping my coffee without my phone or notifications going off next to me, like or the moments of silence in between tasks, or even just like the long shower that turns into like a sacred ritual of just washing off the day. So really saying no without guilt, that is so I can say yes to my nervous system. Like this kind of rest is not lazy. It's, listening, it's allowing, and it's letting joy arise when the noise quiets down, because underneath the hustle, like she's always been there. And I find that joy in reclaiming softness and allowing my worth to exist even on the days that I'm not producing anything, right? Like it's in knowing that the healing happens just as powerfully in the pause as it does in the breakthrough. And so I do want to remind everybody, like, we're not machines. We're and especially as women, we're very cyclical, we're rhythmic. Like what the moon affects us, our cycles affect us. Like we're wired for rest, renewal, rebirth, and the doings. And sometimes the best thing that we can do for ourselves is just to let the joy of rest be enough.
Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for giving us permission to rest. This is also, like Angelica said, I needed that today because I am going through this period right now where I'm like, is it really okay to do like nothing? What I feel is nothing, because I'm all about also like, it has to be hard. It has to be like loud. It has to be like all those things to count. And now as I'm learning that I can actually sit with things and just like breathe in and I just like, yeah, can I really do this? Is this really okay? And then it feels good. I can feel it feels good and it's soothing and it's like, okay, I'm just going to trust this process. But I yet have to find my joy. And I just like, because that is also like my life has been hard, So there's no laughing here. So I just want to find that again, to be like the joyous person that can actually like take life lighter. And it doesn't have to be hard. Yes, it could be challenging. Yes, but it doesn't have to be hard. So thank you for bringing that up. Love that.
Yeah. And just to reiterate, it doesn't have to be a to-do list item either, because it's really about allowing and trusting ourselves. And like, so I like to say this to my clients, but when we're so stuck in the like the doing, and of course that's a program, right? Like that's programming from our childhood. But when we're so stuck in the doing and we're jumping from task to task to task to task, like our brain doesn't have the time to rest. So you're not actually giving your full self to each of those tasks, because you're essentially dividing your time between each thing and not giving it your full attention. And it actually equates to like being drunk or like inebriated when you're actually dividing your time like that, because your brain doesn't have the time to actually get down back to like homeostasis. So I like to say again, like the rest and the pause is going to do you more, do yourself more justice, so that you can recharge and come at something with your full attention and your full focus.
I also love what you said, because as a linguist, I realize over time that we get locked into linguistic paradigms. And, you mentioned the word lazy and selfish and I realized, I think it was COVID. I mean, COVID was I think it was a game changer for many of us, but it was certainly, that was for me. And I'm like, you know what? Why does lazy have to be a negative word? Why would selfish has such a negative connotation, and it really shouldn't have, because if it didn't have, we would all be doing it much more often, and you mentioned the guilt and everything. And yeah, stay in bed with a cup of coffee if you can and do all those things. Lie in the bath for an hour if you want to. Take the dogs on a detour and forget your phone, And I think this is something which is really, really empowering. And it's something that I talk a lot about, and I work a lot with. With students, with clients and things, is, you need to get out of this linguistic paradigm, because it's the self-talk comes from that too. This, idea and this notion of how other people perceive us or other people say or the words we use. And so many of these beautiful words have such negative connotations. And it's like, no, let's be lazy. That's what Sundays are for. Sundays are for solitude. I mean, for me, my joy was I created Solitude Sundays, and no radio, no phone, no television. I don't read anything. I don't, I just am. And then whatever the am may be. And once a month I have one of those where I don't even see anyone and I don't even go out of my gate, because that's my gift to myself. And someone told me, like, you didn't answer your phone. Why do you have a phone? I'm like, so I can turn it off when I want to. We couldn't turn off the handheld. We could unplug them from the wall, but it's like there's a little off button on the side. So I thank you for for bringing that to light as well. That self-care is it's always down here, not there. Break the linguistic paradigms.
I know. I feel like I've heard myself say it a couple times. God forbid I'm not reachable, unavailable. God forbid I don't have my phone or checked my phone. Anyone else?
We all survived. I told a group of 9-year-olds the other day that I got my first mobile phone when I was 26. They nearly fell off their chairs. They were like, what? And you're still alive. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear. I chose for myself, like, when I'm working or when I'm in the flow, I just keep that for myself. It's my focus moment and nobody can disrupt that. So also during the day, when I put my phone in silent mode, then people are like, I try to connect with you and I don't know why do you have a phone? And then I said, like, well, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, you had to ring me on an answering machine and you had to wait. So why am I not allowed during the day to do my thing and answer on the moment on my own agenda and get back to you when I feel to get back to you? Did you die? No. Was there anything that was life-threatening? No, but I was in the shop and I needed your opinion. Yeah, okay, but it's my time. And it's so hard to you get to explain yourself when you choose you. You get to explain yourself when you choose to do it in a different way. You get to explain yourself because you're a mom, you're not responding to your child within X. My children, they knew when the bathroom door was closed and there was music playing, and they were so little, they knew it's mom time. And we are not allowed to get in unless there is a real threatening situation. The house is on fire or my brother is dying or anything like that. And I think it's so important for moms to own that power, to really land that with your children, with your spouse, with your friends and family, and also with your clients, because before you know it, they are owning your agenda. And before you know it, you are handling everything for everybody else apart from you. And this is the way I created a burnout several years ago, because I did it with my children and I did it in my space, but I didn't practice that habit with my clients. I allowed them because they paid for it. That's not the way to go for it. So thank you for bringing that up, because you get to stay in your joy every moment of the day. It's not something that you plan for 15 minutes or 1 hour a day. It's just a way of being. So it's yeah, thank you for that share, and also bringing that up with allowing your space. Yeah, powerful. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Gwen. It is definitely a choice. I learned that recently, that when your intention is to live joyful moments, you realize you can find joy in anything you're doing, any little thing you're doing. And it is a choice. It is a way of being, as you so beautifully said. All right, so I just want to make sure that we do not run out of time asking all you beautiful women questions. Was there any dying comment on this question that anybody wants to share before I go on? No. Okay. All right. Gwen, next question's for you, my love. Let me highlight you here.
Done.
Yes, joy is medicine. Gwen, you've redefined leadership as something rooted in love, truth, and presence. So how has your journey with emotional and mental well-being reshaped the way you show up for your work, for your family, and even for yourself?
Well, back in the years when I started my practice, as I said, I didn't educate my clients in a way that I do now. Like I allowed them to enter my life anytime because they pay me, and that gave me a burnout. And I noticed for myself that I lacked my energy, my spark at some point. And I also lost my business because I had a really ugly burnout. So, and it also triggered, as in the lineage of my family, the women, they all have some sort of autoimmune disorder. And in that time, I also created that. And as I was working also energetically and stuff like that, I came across by accident working with Kundalini energy, and I started to study Tantra, not from the sexual erotical point, but coming from personal growth, alignment, energy management, and all these types of things. So for me, working with Kundalini energy, I did it already with my clients, but using it for me to heal and to transform stuff was very important, especially because a burnout is another word for depression. That's simply as that. So without any medication, without therapist or anything, I just started to tune in with what is really important for me. And in 2020, I developed my business and stuff. And in 2020, like everybody was challenged, right? So I had my other moments of breakdown in the same thing. And my business was running, everything was great. The only thing that I had in that moment, I was very challenged with my youngest child. And I saw with him that he started to talk at some point when he was younger as well. He could see energies. He had visitors in his room, and he was really like, he could explain things that he saw. And I could do two things. I could go to a psychiatrist and start that journey with him, or I just could say like, okay, everything is energy. He has an ability to see things, and he wasn't handling that in a good way. So we could see that there were some patterns of schizophrenia in it, in terms of, it's a term that I use because then people understand what I'm talking about, but it's not a term that I want to pinpoint at him, right? It was just like we were driving in the car, and then he said like, Mom, why is that person over there doing that and that and that and that? And I said, I don't see a person. He said, yeah, he's there with the umbrella and he's doing like that. I said, no, I don't see it. At some point he came home, and then he said like, do you know that there are wolves behind in that space when you go over there and have a walk? And I said like, these are strange things, right? And then I started to question him, and it was very authentic. So I started to work with him energetically, and things started to change because I wasn't afraid of what was going on with him. So I had to tap into my leadership again there, like, okay, I have these abilities. I can hear and see and feel things. Why my child is doing the same thing? The difference is that I'm an adult and I practiced my talent and he doesn't. So I just get to support him, not giving him, because in school I had to go to have an investigate, control him in like, is he having ADHD or is he having autism or anything like that. So I did that for the school, but I never gave him the title, right? So we worked with it, and after a period of time, he started to heal because he started to learn how to work with that. And now he's not challenged with that anymore because he knows what to do. And my mom, she supported me when I was younger. But when I saw people in the room walking around my bed at night and stuff like that, so I really had to digging into myself on how can I be an example and a leader for my child to empower that child with the talent instead of judging him, being in fear and going to the hospital and go the whole thing like with medicines and stuff like that. So in my awareness, I think when people start to learn about energy, especially parents, it can create so much difference in the world. We don't need to give them pills to make them fit into society's rules. We just get to learn them how to handle themselves so they can live a normal life and use their abilities as a talent instead of something that is annoying and that is not okay. So for me, working as a tantric and working with energy and guiding my child through that and supporting myself in healing myself was a beautiful journey. And I'm also aware that this autoimmune structures, like so many people who are challenged with autoimmune diseases, it's just an ancestral thing because I also work with health and supplements, and I support people with their health conditions, right? So, and I did everything right. So, and still I was challenged with it. So at some point I discovered that it's not only about doing the supplements, sleeping, eating right, and all the things, but you also get to check in with the energy. What is causing that? And often people who are challenged with autoimmune disorders, they have a challenge with the ancestral lineages. And when we are breaking that cycle, that's the moment we heal society. That's the moment we heal our children. That's the moment we heal ourselves and the whole feminine energy in the world that is required to bring peace and love and truth in the world. So that's my view on mental health issues. If we go to the energy, we can do a lot. Yeah. So that's my share.
Yes, I love that you brought up energy with mental health because sometimes we get to the place where we think it to death, almost even instead of dropping into the body, even just dropping into the body. What is the body saying? What is it needing? Just being in tune with her inner wisdom. And energy for me is everything. I've seen people do emotional freedom, or they're breathing and they're crying and they're releasing an emotion that is what is creating that dis-ease, that autoimmunity, that whatever, and there's so much research now that is and testimonials backing that up when you start to get in tune with yourself. So thank you for presencing that, because there is so much beautiful work that is non-invasive, and it giving you back the power, essentially. Yeah. Was there anybody that, yeah, think it to death? Let's not think it to death. Anybody else who has rewritten the rules to lead with soul instead of striving with softness?
I just wanted to say thank you for sharing this, because as a mother of a neurodivergent son, he also is very open to energy reading. So I don't want to call him a psychic or a terrible, it's whichever way. I think that's a whole new subject to talk about. But I also work a lot with neurodivergents, and actually there's a lot to be said for this, that it kind of changed as my son developed as well, and as I started working with more and more neurodivergents, that I myself am one, that it really is about having a greater sensitivity, if you like, to energy, and much more about harnessing that. And I also work a lot with energy, and it's a truly beautiful route to go down, and they're very misunderstood, particularly children, because they're trying also to make sense of everything within these, social paradigms that we live in. So it's really lovely that you brought that up and you shared that, because it's something that changed the way I look at everything. Because as a mother who was battling mental health problems, through postpartum depression and burnout and things like that, there were two breakthroughs. One was my son actually tapping in with me and realizing that, we are connected energetically very strongly. And the other was my daughter kind of announcing that, that she'd spent her whole life watching me kind of, push myself to the limit and then recover, and push myself to the limit and recover. And there was never rest, because it was always recovery. And actually I learned a lot from my son, actually, and he was the one that set me on my healing journey, or both of them did, and my work with energy and neurodivergence, actually. So it's beautiful you brought that up. Thank you.
Welcome.
Well, since I have you here, Claudia, the next question is for you, unless somebody else had something to share. Going once, going twice, sold. Awesome. Claudia, as someone who guides others through grief and regulation, what sacred boundaries or practices have helped you stay rooted in your light? So what is like one of the joyful non-negotiables that you honor no matter what?
Okay, so actually, there are a number of things, but I'm just going to contextualize it, because you started off beautifully with the Ho'oponopono prayer, and I'm a Ho'oponopono practitioner, and that for me is a complete non-negotiable in my daily work. And also it's something that is challenging to to get across to others, but almost everybody I know who has gone down that path has benefited massively. And I think it has different reactions or effects for different people, and those effects change over time. But I mean, essentially what we're talking about with Ho'oponopono, and I think everyone here has talked about, it's like, leading from a place of love and a place of gratitude, and that's, the kind of fundamentals. And in order to truly do that, there need to be elements of forgiveness, but there has to be, the hardest person to forgive is yourself quite often. And but also that whole sense of knowing that, if you lead from a place of love and gratitude, you're going to be kind of forgiven and helped and guided, if you like. And again, there are very strong linguistic complaints, because people are like, I don't need to be forgiven, I haven't done anything wrong, and it's often just about, yeah, but just recognizing that perhaps you weren't conscious at that time of something. And I myself have found myself in that place many, many times. And I love the fact that you referred to me as a doula, because I think that it's this form of healing and transformation. It's very much like birthing. I mean, there's a conception point, and that conception point is the awakening point where you realize that you need help, or your energy needs to be dealt with, whether that's from a spiritual level, from something internal, through joy, through breath work, whatever. And then there is this gestational period of healing that takes time. And sometimes people talk about being in a pupae, or something, and then there is this rebirthing. So that was, very beautiful to be referred to as that. I'm very honored. No one's ever referred to me like that, so thank you. But I protect my energy. I check in with myself, and I check in with my light, and where am I giving my energy away, and where am I giving my power away, and where am I on my list? So I think everyone's kind of mentioned this. Jen mentioned, where am I, and am I being true to myself? Because if we don't put our oxygen masks on first, then we can't we can't help anybody else. But it's I think Margarita, I know that you also work with this in a similar way of energy protection, and we've talked about like energy cords and things. That I actually have a mechanism that I work where, if I feel I'm walking into a non-purposeful or non-useful energetic space, let's say. I don't like to say negative energy, but that's why I say non-purposeful energetic space. Then, I have mechanisms where I will kind of protect myself and create my own little kind of protective vortex, if you like, or force field that cannot be penetrated. And every day I cleanse and I cleanse, and this is my no breaker, that I will cleanse my energy on a daily basis, whether that is through Ho'oponopono, which is something that for me personally it works and is very powerful, or through sitting in the silence, or the long bath, the long walk in nature. It's an absolute given time for me to do whatever I want to do that's going to bring me back and ground me. But I know that grounding is something that's a very, very personal thing, and people have to find their own pathway to that, and how they can connect, with the earth and with the skies, let's say. And that often seems to be a very beautiful part of my client's journey. It's something very beautiful for me when I can help people find that connection, to bring themselves back to the earth, back to themselves, and back to joy. And I always feel like, I think with everything I do, I've been like this, that if I'm not doing that myself, then I cannot be authentic in my purpose work, basically. So they're my like non-negotiables. Selfish, lazy moments bring me joy. But yeah, so thank you. I had a big problem with Sano, and I had a big problem with self-care, and I used to also take it to the extreme, I have to say, and I use self-care to take me also into my shadows at time, and then realize I'm not actually going out or doing stuff either, because I need to relax, I need to rest, I haven't done my grounding, so also finding that point where it's okay if it doesn't happen. And sometimes your friends call and you just go, you know what, it didn't happen today, but that's okay, it'll happen tomorrow. So I think there is that element of it, of being able to just go, okay, not now. So that's also very liberating. So yeah, thank you. It was a really lovely question.
Claudia, I love something that you said in how I use what is called an energy shield. It's like what you're talking about for your vortex. I love that you said unpurposeful instead of negative, because I always say, unresourceful, energy, shielding it from that space. But I love the concept of unpurposeful, or like, because there are times where there are things that we think are negative that actually serve us in our healing journey. So I love that, like, yeah, healing's not always just like all high vibes and like fun, and that's okay, because there's a lesson, there's an opportunity in that moment that is meant for us on that. So I really loved that. And yeah, the boundaries, and Marguerite, I know you and I had talked about this previously, of like really having the boundaries of your piece. And as a recovering people pleaser, that was that was definitely a process, right? Because for me, always putting everybody else first, and I know amongst all of these moms here, I am not alone in putting everybody else first and then being like, oh wait, I get to consider myself. So that has definitely been a really fun journey of being like, oh yeah, I get to have boundaries. I can say no. And if it's not a holy hell yes, then it's a no. And that alignment, and it goes back to, Gwen, you talking about the energy and like really being tuned into your energy. What is it that, my higher self, my body is truly saying, and tuning in and listening to that. And it's really, we are being unconventional work, right? We've been a part of leadership, like that's already something that is different from society's norm. And now on top of that leadership, we're like, let's toss in this feminine energy of being and take that leadership in this space of, ease and flow, and where it doesn't have to be that hustle. And it's like reminding myself it's okay that it doesn't look like what everybody else says it should, because I am not on that path. That is not my path. I am off here on a path that has not been beaten. I'm cutting down thickets and working my way through, and that's okay, because that is my journey. And really like coming back to myself in these moments of in rest, in being like, okay, it's not a bad thing that you're resting right now. It's okay. This is what intuitively is being guided to you right now. And just being okay that it doesn't look like how I think it should, or how else the people around me do. So that's been a really fun journey, and something that I want to invite people to look at is like the comparing, and like if tuning into yourself, and like that is the journey for me, of tuning into me and tuning everyone else's voices out, because their validation, their guide, like that's not what is necessarily needed for me. So what is it? Because we all have our own answers. No one else does. So thank you.
Yeah, beautiful share. Also, the unpurposeful thing, I think this is the most powerful expression of leadership, because when you are able to see the world through that eye, everything shifts. Because then you step away from blaming, faulting, shaming yourself or somebody else, the judgment, everything. You can allow everything to be as it is, and coming from a place of the unknown. When a person is acting in a specific way, we don't need to come from a place where it's good or bad. We can't come from a neutral place and being curious. We can't just be curious, like, what if this person isn't just aware of the effect of his words or his acts? Then we also can step away from the judgment and the labels of narcissists and whatever it is, right? Because when a person is behaving in a specific way, it can rather be two things. Or he's aware and he's choosing him instead of the world's requirements, or the person isn't aware. And it's on us to figure that out and to be okay with that. And that's, for me, the foundation of Tantra. That's where it's all about. It is there. It's not the shame and the blame and the good and the bad or the ugly. It is just what it is, and it's your interpretation of what is going on that fuels the emotion, that fuels the outcome, that fuels how it has to look. And if you choose to come from a place of it's not unpurposeful, it's just let's be curious, then we have a really powerful way of healing ourselves and healing other people that you meet along the way. And for me, that's the definition of leadership. So thank you for bringing that up. Yeah.
I think also when I learned and I realized, and it's something that Gabor Mate said, I'm not quoting him, but when I learned this myself as well, that, trauma is not something that happens to you. Trauma is what remains after the happening. And that means that if it isn't the event itself, then the healing becomes purposeful, because then you know that you're empowered and you've already empowered your trauma. You've overpowered your trauma. And this, for me, in terms of my battle with my mental health, and it was a power battle, it really was. This was a massive key for me, this that so it's not what happened, that I can't change what happened, it's actually what remains, and that I can shift, and that becomes the purposeful work. My purpose work begins with me, and that's what I always say, my purpose work begins with me. So, and Angelica, I loved what you said, all of those things you said. I'm not interested in the judgment, I'm not interested, I'm on my path, because my purpose work starts with me here. Yeah, it's so beautiful what everybody said, actually. I think we just all aligned. Margarita, it's always so wonderful that you pull us all together like this. Thank you.
Well, I'm honored that you guys were all a yes. So I cannot do this without you being a yes. So thank you for coming here and sharing your truths. That was a lot of beautiful things being said there. And I think what landed for me was that I heard responsibility, just being really responsible for how you want your day to unfold, the emotion that you want to hold on to, the feelings that you want to keep being right about, like it's all comes to you, like back down to you, like it starts with you, right? That purposeful work really does begin with a simple choice. How long am I going to sit in this poop scoop? Or can I go do something silly that evokes that inner child, hug a tree, walk barefoot, put a song on, whatever it is, scream into a pillow if I have to release, so that I can get back into that higher vibration where my joy and abundance is living. And, because it is innate in us, it is our birthright. And so I love that invitation to be on purpose, choosing you.
Yes, and also, can I just interfere with that? Because also being okay and not being judgmental about the moments when you're actually acting on purpose. What was that word again? It was super good, but I can not pronounce it. But when you're not on purpose, like when you're, like, because it happens, right? We are going to yell at our kids. We are going to do things. We're going to be like, our autopilot is going to start like feeding us things, and just be mindful of that and say, whoops, and that's one thing that I'm definitely picking up on now, that I'm just so fast at going back and like, oh, I didn't mean that. That came from a place of, I'm irritated. I had sugar, I'm like, ugh. So just like not being so judgmental of when it's not working as we planned. I think that is super important also for the mental health. Just be forgiving to ourselves.
Yes, having grace. Oh my God, thank you so much for saying that because it's true. I've seen a big difference in how I'm able just to show up for my children because I used to hold on to that mom guilt. Oh, I'm a horrible mom. They should just be taken away from me because I am going to break them, like just all the things. And when I was just like, I'm trying the best I can. And I'm recognizing having the awareness, right, is the number one thing, is having the awareness of like, oh, I'm actually doing that thing again. And I don't want my kids to think all these things. And me not apologizing or coming back like and cleaning it up because of my guilt is making it worse. So just owning that and coming in and going, hey, I realized that I responded this way and I noticed I didn't sleep well last night or just, and I think it teaches them that it's okay for them to have those moments and it's in how you clean it up that really says more about you and where you are. And it actually creates even a stronger bond and more confidence within you, I think, because you realize you didn't die, no one's gonna hate you, they still love you, like they even respect you more when you come and you clean it up. And I think that's super
Absolutely.
important. So thank you
I heard
for
something the other day, just like if you just say it wasn't you, it's all that is, like to the kid, like it wasn't you, then they're like, okay, there's like no trauma involved. Just as we just like let them go from the guilt or the shame or whatever, they think it's their fault. So it's pretty easy. It's just the admitting, the pausing, like you were talking about, Claudia, the pausing and just like admitting to ourselves what just happened. So,
but just really quickly, because I know Angelica needs to do her thing, but there's also for all the people maybe watching who maybe think, okay, but I didn't do that, and they do hate me, or and at some point they will hate us because that's what happens. It's temporal, it's temporary hate, and it's not real hate, and it's not deep hate, because at the end of the day, everybody knows the truth, even if that truth isn't there, and even if that you have got to that place and you've gone beyond it, you can always go back, and like Margarita said, and you said, Mary, you can always go back and go, you know what, that came from a different place and a different time, and now we're here. And it's like you said, if you leave it, it festers, and it deepens and it deepens. So I just want to say, if anyone's thinking like, but I didn't do all of those things that you're all talking about, it's like, then go back and say, let's have that conversation and take it to that next place.
Yeah, and what's interesting too, because it's sometimes what to us feels like a benign moment that could be a trauma for that child that they repeat on a loop over and over till they're 40, 50 years old. They still hear you in that one moment. It was just one little moment of you being frustrated in the weeds or you didn't do the self-care that day, right? And so you're taking it out on the child and you could just say the one thing that could be a small T, but a huge replaying pattern that child repeats over and over again. So it's super important to, pay attention to the change of subtlety in their energy because we could see their auras shrinking when they feel judged or not enough. We could feel it and sense it. And so I think those are the moments that we get to just be like, oh, I'm sorry, did I say something that upset you? Just narrate it. That's authenticity. That's authenticity 101. And I
Bringing
think
the
there's so
well and connected in that moment after and just be mindful of how you reconnect again and bring that child or your spouse or that friend that you acted out on, bring it back into, yeah, I had a moment and I love you. Vulnerable and truthful.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
even for the perfect parent, like perfect parents still find a way to F up their kids. So honestly, like just you can go back. You can always go back because as Claudia said, like there's truth in it. That we all know that we act in ways that we weren't necessarily meaning, right? Like we're not our thoughts, we're not our actions, we're not our behaviors, right? Like it doesn't change who we are.
And you know what? We are leaders. So it means that when they have a tantrum or they have something, they do just the same thing. They just come back to you and they say, hey, mom, it wasn't you. I had a moment and I love you. And if we learn our children that, that brings another perspective in their relationships, in their life and how they grow up and how they lead by example. So it's just a ripple.
Yes, modeling. I love that. And so that brings me to our next question, right? Because it is really about the messaging and we can say all these things, but it's about also living it, being that model. But Angelica, let me highlight you here. For all the women out there remembering, there's a soul message that we all have for them. You hold space for women to rise into their truth and freedom and their fierce love. If there's a woman listening right now on the edge, weary, unraveling, maybe still holding on, what would you want her most? What would you most want her to remember about who she really is?
This is such a great question. I think first and foremost, going back to one of the earlier questions, is you're not alone. Like when you are in the thick of it, I know from experience, you're like, I'm the only one that has ever felt this, who like it has ever been to this point, whatever the stories is that you're telling yourself, you're not alone. And that this too shall pass. That this is a moment to be in.
Absolutely.
And then really get to, as you're tuning in, shift through it in that space. Like I was having a conversation with somebody the other day about how, like, if you get into a car accident, you're supposed to just like, you're not supposed to tense up. You're supposed to like let it like be limber so the impact doesn't create as much damage. And this is kind of how I see like surrendering to the moment, right? It sounds crazy, right? It sounds like you're like, what the heck? How are you supposed to do that? But just surrendering to the moment, and it may not be as easy as it sounds, and that's okay. But leaning into what it is that's coming up and letting it fully sink in, because we are on this journey for a reason. We are not generating anything in our life that is not for us in some capacity. There is, a lesson to learn. There is a mirror there for you to shift through. When I started my journey of healing, I never would have imagined that I signed up for in this lifetime to be a cycle breaker. And you may not know what it is that you are here for in that moment, but being able to just take one step forward, even when it is not clear what the path is, that is the greatest thing that you can do, is just to move one foot in front of the other, even when you don't know where you're going, but being present in yourself to be able to move forward. Thank you.
Yes,
so
and all the others are just as scared as you are. That's what I wanted to say to when I had that moment, I wanted to say, everybody's scared. Just go ahead and do your thing, and the rest will follow.
I think surrender is such a powerful, powerful thing. I went through a period of about 5 years of having really crippling panic attacks, like really bad ones. And then I was at an airport once and having a seriously bad panic attack. And then I got on the plane. And then the minute the plane took off, I was like calm as anything. And I was like, oh my God. And then I realized I have no control here. When you fly, you have to relinquish control. You have no control over what's going to happen on this flight now, And I don't know what it was, because I know a lot of people are afraid of flying because there is no control. But somehow it was this, I really have no control. And that's when I realized, okay, surrendering is the answer to everything. So, Angelica, I love the fact that you really highlighted that, because I think it's one of the hardest things for people to learn when people coming from a place of fear. So thank you so much for raising that, because yeah, it's all for us. None of it's to us. We don't always know that. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you.
I loved how you also said it, and then you also gave us a path of what it looks like, one step at a time, being in your body, because sometimes we're like, but I am surrendering. What does that even feel like in my body or look like, right? Because it's like, because I am surrendering. But I, for me, noticed that I was still controlling the outcome because I wasn't leaning in until certain things were aligning first, right? So that's not full surrender. And so getting really aware of my need for it to look a certain way because of that fear of really being seen for, not, and I think now in this stage in my life, I think the more people see me not perfectly getting it right, allows me to be more relatable in a sense, I think. And it gives that person who might still be on that threshold of leaning in to being seen, to being like, oh, well, she can do it messy. Like, I'm sure I can do it too, right? And I think that's why this conversation is so important, that the more that we speak our truth and our vulnerability is shared, we do recognize that we are all walking around with wanting to be seen, wanting to be heard, with our own fears of, not being liked, and thinking we have to do everything alone. And it's all a programming. It's all this like outside expectation of the shoulds and the shouldn'ts, And I always like to say, you stop shoulding all over yourself, because we should never compare ourselves and where we are in our lives to other people, because we're always going to hold ourselves small and holding ourselves back for our greatness.
Yeah, absolutely. And surrendering is another powerful word. In Tantra, we have this process, trusting the process, right? And where there is this game between resistance and desire. So we always, day in, day out, we play with resistance and desire all day long. And it's the moment you find balance between the resistance and the desire, that's the moment you can go into surrendering. And in the surrendering, there is where the magic happens. And when we go in Tantra, we use the breath, we use massage, we use yoga, we use meditation. And it's always the dance between the resistance and the desire. And when you are able to lean in and step away from your expectations that fuels the desire, and step away from the fear of the past, which is fueling your resistance, that's the moment you're able to surrender and create magic. And just like maybe I can bring it back, and now I'm going maybe say something in a more understandable language when we are going to have an intimate moment with a person. We have this play as well. So we have this expectation. We get to go to somewhere. We get to have a highlight, right? This is where we desire to go when we are intimate with somebody. But it's on the other side, there is also a bit of resistance, because there gets to be vulnerability and there gets to be whatever it is in order to be able to go there. And it's when we are actually breathing into that, and we are able to allow that part of surrendering, meaning we don't need to go anywhere. We don't need to feed that desire, and we don't need to feed that resistance. This is where an orgasm of a split second turns out in an ecstatic wave that can go on for hours, just because we are led by the breathing and the surrendering. And I just bring that because it's a very powerful image, but this is also how we handle life. When we are able to step away of how it has to look, when we can step away of the fears that prevent us of going in the place where we actually long for, and we are able to bring that into balance, then we are going into a space of nothingness, and that nothingness creates everything. And this is where we are allowing ourselves to be who we are, to feel powerful, share our voice, and stand for the person who we are. And we give permission to other people to do the same. So surrendering, I love that word. Thank you for bringing it up, Angelica.
Absolutely. And I'd love to say one more thing. I know we're going to be wrapping up. To everybody that's listening, that's watching, that's on this journey, is that it's okay if it's not perfect. The biggest lesson that I have learned on this journey is that it is practice. I am practicing it for the rest of my life. All of the things, all of my ways of being, all of the things that I love, I am practicing. And, that was really big for me, because growing up, I had this really big need to be perfect for, like safety reasons and all of these other stories, whatever it may be for you. And that stopped me. If I was not good at something, I wouldn't do it. And talk about being a damper on your joy. Like, there were so many moments that I wasn't experiencing joy and being in that risk for excitement because of that fear. So when I learned and realized that it's just practice, I was like, oh my gosh, this is easy. Like, I was like, exactly, Gwen, like mind blown. I'm like, this is just practice. Like, it's neutral. There's no good, there's no bad, it's neutral. And I'm practicing forever till the day I die and then beyond. Like, so I hope that that is a gift and a seed for everyone to really plant and nurture, that it's okay if you fuck it up with passion. We are learning. It is an adventure.
As long as there's passion.
Yeah.
And I love how you said about practice too, because we all think there's this like magical final destination where we're all going to be healed at the end of this. But we also get to reframe like where we were conditioned in believing that. And also think about this, like doctors practice medicine. Like there's no final destination. They're not going to know everything. They're always, developing and learning, right? So like we get to practice this every day. And also I just wanted to say, just off of something else that was said earlier, but like with resistance, the only reason that we have resistance is because we have an expectation behind it.
Exactly.
And think about that too with like relationships. I have an expectation on how my husband's going to act. I have an expectation on how my kids are going to act. That's the only reason why we create resistance. So we get to let go of those expectations.
So true. I love that. I really love that.
But also from memory as well. And I think as women, we forget that, we've all talked about vulnerability. And as women, we've been in so many vulnerable positions and that have evolved into humiliation, just the whole cycle. You mentioned cycles, our moon cycles, our physical cycles, getting your period in school, getting your period when you've got white trousers on, it's, just your health woman checkups, never mind, giving birth and all of those things, and being vulnerable and crying and your mascara running. And, we women, we naturally live messy lives, our lives are designed to be messy at times. And and we're placed in vulnerable, which can be humiliating experiences, and those people's reactions create memories, and those memories have emotions attached to them. And I think women, we forget so much. And then comes the menopause, and let's not even go there, but we forget so much of what we go through on a monthly journeys, and how we overcome that, and how we're brilliant at problem solving and covering things up and coming back from that. And and I think that women really, we forget to applaud ourselves for all the messiness that created us. So I think, Angelica, this is just, it's yeah, we're practicing from day one. We're just not awake. We just don't realize that we're doing it, and it's beautiful. And yeah, it's lovely. Let's live messy lives. And that's going to be that's the best thing I've heard, actually. What did you say? Fuck it up with passion. Yeah, I'm from London. There's like soul food.
Yeah, I like the visual of having a messy life because it says that you're really risking and you're playing full out and you're allowing that inner child to be just bold and free and testing, like I just sit there and I was like, what would the young version of me do in this moment? How would she feel? Like what would, like I want to start living in that space when I find myself having resistance, is there an expectation? What would the inner child me say in this moment? I feel afraid or scared to show up, and they would be like, go for it. Who cares? You're not gonna die. In the end, I think, in the end, it's just to remember, but did you die? But did you die? No. So live life messy, my friends. I love that invitation. Thank you. So as we close this beautiful sacred space, let this also be a reminder. You're not alone. Let me go here. Hold on. You're not alone. You were never meant to do it alone. And your healing does not have to look like a hustle or comparison. It begins in the being. We are all cycle breakers rising. Women choosing joy as medicine, presence as power, and curiosity as a way of returning home to ourselves. So today, let yourself giggle. Say yes to the things that bring you peace. Be selfish with your mental health in the most sacred way. Set your non-negotiables. Create rituals that ground you, and trust the process, even when the path isn't clear. Because the truth is, joy waits for you when you stop running. Healing unfolds when you soften. And purpose work, it begins with you. So take that next step, even if it's wobbly. Forgive yourself for the moments you forgot. And let go of the labels, the pressure, and the timelines. You don't need to be fixed. You just need to be felt, to be held, to be heard. This storm you're moving through, it will pass. And on the other side is you, more radiant, more whole, and more free than ever before. Thank you for being here in the sacred circle of truth, remembrance, and soul-led healing. If this conversation stirred something within you, if it cracked your heart open just a little more, if you felt seen or heard or simply not alone, please share it. Please invite another sister, because it's important you know this. You're beautiful, and you're beautifully divined and divinely guided, because you are enough. You're becoming. I see you, and I love you. Until next time, my sisters, keep choosing joy, keep coming home to yourself, keep rising. This is Margarita Rose with another episode of Coming Home to You, special panel for May Mental Health Awareness. I love you. All right, I do have a guest here who might want to ask a question. Caroline, I don't know if anybody here has another 11 minutes to stay on till the hour. But I'd love to have you for a Q&A if there's any questions that we have for each other even. But I think we might still have a guest that came on. No, I think she left.
I think Caroline left.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. I'm gonna stop the recording now.